Station? Ah,
We're all here.
very good. Okay. Well, that's wonderful. I am sorry I'm not meeting you guys in person. I had a little bit of some issues with my meniscus tear in my knee over the weekend, kind of. It's doing better today. It's just all in the healing process. So, hopefully I'll be with you in person in January. Let's go ahead and bring the meeting to order. One of the things I like to do too is to remind people when you're looking at the meeting on the Skagit Transit YouTube channel, like and subscribe to that. I think I saw like 11 viewers this past month, so it is getting some views. We're not like a YouTube rock star or anything, but it is getting some views and they've increased. Also, anybody, including me out here in Zoomville, if there is any background noise that starts to happen, go ahead and mute yourself until you need to speak. Thank you very much for that. So, having called the meeting to order, so Cheryl, would you like me to do the roll call? Would that help you administer things?
I have it right here.
Okay, okay, go ahead and go for it then, please.
Okay. Doris? I don't see her right at the moment. Ray. Ray's here.
Okay,
BJ Carroll. BJ? I don't see her. Oh, that's right. She couldn't attend this time.
she I believe, is still out of town.
Louise Eden is absent and Craig Eden is absent.
Okay,
Madeline?
Here.
Robin is just coming on.
okay.
Chris Jones?
He's here.
I'm
I can
here.
tell he's here.
Okay.
I'm here.
Thank you. Judy Jones.
Is here.
John Norman forgot to schedule his paratransit ride, so I don't think he'll be attending.
Okay,
Monette Horton.
Here.
Dick Phillips.
Here.
Here. Valerie is absent, I believe. Did she join? Valerie?
let me look on the participants here.
Okay, Valerie just joined.
Okay,
And Dave Stevens is here.
all right.
Daniel. Daniel? I'm not hearing Daniel. And Irene. Irene is not here at the station.
Okay, and I see Crystal. I'm just looking on the participants here. Very good. Okay, and so Cheryl, thank you for taking the roll. And if you see anybody coming in, just go ahead and interrupt what's going on and let us know if someone joins. Welcome to everybody who can make it today. Um, do we have any guests in house? I didn't see anybody in the participants list.
My guests are gone from there. I had a couple, but they left.
You and Robin, you said what? I was asking about guests.
I said my guests have left. They were, I had 3 extra people in the house here, but they
Oh, you
went out the
okay?
door.
That were gonna be part of the meeting?
No, no.
Okay, I'm asking about guests in the meeting. Yeah. Okay. Do we have any public commenters at all? I take it if we don't have the guests, we don't have the commenters.
None at the station.
Okay. All right. Very good. Let's move on to the meeting minutes for November. We had a little bit of a revision in there. Uh, so, um, does anybody, would you like to bring a motion forward on the meeting minutes for November?
I move we accept them as printed.
And that's Dick, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Chris
Ray.
Jones, I'll second that. Ray? Okay.
Okay, Chris and Ray second. All right. It's been moved that the November meeting, the minutes be approved as submitted. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed, same sign. Okay, well, thank you all for approving the minutes. I appreciate that very
Judy,
much.
Irene has just joined us.
Thank you. Okay, Irene, glad you're in. Very good. Okay. Now the other thing, you all know that obviously we thought we were going to be moving, but we are not. We are here. So I am going to remain the elected chair. And again, I appreciate you guys, having done that for me.
Yay! That was Valerie.
Hi, Valerie. Okay, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. One of the things that I also wanted to mention that did not happen at last board meeting, in the November board meeting, this was after this really bad storm that we had, and much of Burlington got knocked out. It's like the fiber optics got cut. And so I was not able to join the board meeting. And what happened in the board meeting is they neglected to approve our slate of 2025 officers. So I'm making sure that this will be in the items for the board meeting in December so that you guys, the new officers, can be official. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Okay, so we in January speaker, do you want to talk about this, Cheryl?
Sure. So we have some wonderful new additions to the CAC board, our committee, and we have a service called paratransit that some of you know well, but others may not be as familiar with. So we have a person who's very well versed in paratransit, and she has agreed to come and speak at the next CAC meeting. It's a great opportunity for those of you that use paratransit to ask questions, and those who are not as familiar to get familiar through her.
Is she a client or someone in?
She's with Skagit Transit. She's a
So-
member of Skagit Transit.
Will you please give us her name and her title, and what she does with Skagit Transit, please?
Her name is Jo Pement, and I believe her title is Eligibility Specialist. And we just have another person join us.
Okay, so we have Irene that joined, and who else?
John Norman.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I am so glad about that, and I appreciate that. All right. So one of the other things that Jo does is she, as her title implies, is that she helps determine eligibility, and she can talk all about like the different criteria, and there are several different eligibility criteria for getting on paratransit. So if you guys have any questions about that or have had any questions you were just wondering about how this works, she's the answer lady. So bring your questions for her for that. Okay, now February guest speaker, Cheryl, do you want to address that, please?
Sure. So as you know, Skagit Transit is engaging in a long-range transit plan, along with a regional study, transit study. And in February, the consulting firm that has been working on this project would like to present to all of you where they're at with the plan at this time.
On the long range transit plan. Okay. All right. And do you know the name of that consulting firm, just for the record?
Yes, Kimberly Horn.
Okay. All right. Very good. Any questions for Cheryl so far?
So they're
Okay.
gonna, Manette, so they're gonna speak in sometime in February?
What was the question about February?
So first of all, they're gonna speak sometime in February, or at our February meeting, and what's their name again?
The consulting firm.
Oh, the consulting firm is Kimberly Horn.
Kimberly?
No, Kimberly.
Okay, Kimberly, Kimberly,
Horn.
and
Kimberly
HORN.
Horn.
Yes. And they're gonna speak at the February meeting.
Correct.
Okay, I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say.
Okay. Well, so that's going to be two speakers, one in January, Joe Piment, regarding the paratransit, and then the consulting firm in February. Sounds good. This sounds like we're going to have a lot of information coming our way in January and February. All right. Now, Cheryl, you also have, I'm just slamming a lot of things at you here. You're proposing an excursion for us, a discussion on an excursion. And so for those of you who are new, what we have done the past few years as a committee is we have taken different routes. Some of them have been newly added or newly newly modified routes as bus route changes have happened. And so we've written these just to give our feedback on how these routes seem to be working, what our impression of the different routes are. When the one in Burlington started, we had an excursion with that one. We had one with the 615 going over to LaConner one year. So some of these, if there's any route changes or modifications, it would be interesting to take one of those depending on what they are. So with that intro kind of, Cheryl, I'll ask you, do you have any proposals yourself that you're thinking of that might be good for us to evaluate and do during May?
Well, someone extended an invitation. So some of you have lived here a long time, and there's a historic location. It used to be called Northern State, and it is now the facility for the Job Corps, Cascade Job Corps, and they in May are thinking about having a community relations connection there at that location. And they would like to extend an invitation to this group to attend. We could take the Route 300 there, attend. They will be giving a tour of their historic location as part of this. So it's just an idea that I'm going to put before you.
Are they considering any changes in what they're using the buildings for? I don't think you heard me.
She's
Cheryl,
asking,
can you hear Robin?
considering any changes in the buildings.
In the,
I don't have an answer to that. The person who's guiding us through would tell us that.
okay, their purposing of the buildings. If they're repurposing or have any plans to change, whatever.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
I just wanted to interrupt. This is Valerie. Doris is trying to log in, and I just got a text from her. I don't know what the challenge is.
We're
Well,
looking for her on the screen, but it's not popping up. We'll keep
Right,
looking
she's
for her.
trying to log. She's trying to log in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll forward her what I used to log in. Hope
Oh, that
works.
sounds great.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no, that is fine. And thank you, Valerie, very much. Okay, so this would be a very informative community event, I think. Does anybody have any other discussion or ideas on this?
I did want to mention if an individual didn't want to take the tour, that they have a place where folks could hang out, so to speak, while the others take the tour, if that was the case.
Okay. Any other questions for Cheryl on this excursion? Or does anybody have any other excursion ideas to bring forward?
Hmm.
So to me, I think this sounds, especially if we're getting an invitation, and we always like to have exposure, as a community committee. I think it sounds like a really good idea. I am in favor of it. And Cheryl, are they giving, I know it's down the road, but are they giving you any kind of a deadline when they need to know?
They just said, would I touch base with them after I'd had a chat with the group? So no specific date.
Yeah. Yeah, it's down the road here a little bit, but I think it sounds like a great idea. But I would say also that since we're not even in January yet, if any of you have any other excursion ideas or things that you think would be good for the CAC to participate in, let Cheryl know those too. I think this is a really good idea, but I think we could be open to any other ideas that could be put on the table. So be thinking about that and let Cheryl know if you've got any other ideas. Okay, any further questions for Cheryl?
I think this is Manette. I think it's interesting. Just let us know down the road.
More to come.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we heard you, Cheryl. I'm not sure. Kind of. I thought I heard a couple of syllables from you. I'm not sure. Anyway, uh, let's go ahead and go into the CEO updates.
Sorry about that. I had to find the mute button. Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. I know that there was one question for me from the last meeting, so I'll answer that shortly if you guys want me to. In the interim, the only feedback that I have or the only comments that I have is that the consultants are continuing to work on the long-range transit plan with the goal of completing it in mid-2025. They are focused on 3 elements of the long-range transit plan: local routes, regional routes, and microtransit. Upon completion, the consultants will develop a list of recommended network changes. The goal will be to implement net zero changes recommended by the consultant first. Skagit staff will pursue grant opportunities to assist in implementing recommendations that require additional capital or operating funds. The consultant has made a preliminary recommendation to do a microtransit pilot in Anacortes with the ability to scale if the pilot is successful. And we have already submitted a consolidated grant application for that. And I believe it ranked number 6 out of, I want to say 14 projects, but I don't remember. So right now we feel like the likelihood of us receiving that grant is pretty good. Lastly, in partnership with WTA Island Transit, the regional study will focus on inter-county connections for community members wishing to connect within Whatcom, Skagit County, Island, and Snohomish. And the last thing that I wanted to report is for the December board meeting, you will see that we'll have a budget amendment that will almost balance our budget for 2024. We're showing right now a deficit of approximately $24,000. However, we believe that we've underestimated on our tax revenues that we'll receive between now and the end of the year. So we expect to not only balance the budget, but actually have a little bit extra to use in 2025. For 2025, we did balance that budget. We have about $1,000 excess. We ended up taking a number of things that we wanted to do in 2025 out to balance the budget. But again, if we have excess funds in 2024 and or we receive more tax funds in 2025 than we projected or budgeted for, then we'll add some of those projects back in. We do have a very full agenda for December, so to include an executive session at the beginning, we're still trying to finalize mediation with our old consultants. So yeah, we'll have a very busy and full board meeting for December. So hope to see you all there.
Okay.
Doris has joined us.
Yay, Doris. Glad to see you. Glad you could make it.
Finally, I've been sitting here since 20 after 4 trying to get logged in. It's
Oh,
a
my
slow
goodness.
computer. Oh, well.
I don't remember if it was, I don't remember, Miss Judy, if it was Doris or Valerie that asked a question last meeting. Was it you,
It was
Valerie?
Doris.
Was it Doris?
Doris
So-
had the question on the emergency stuck on the bus thing.
Yep. So I believe the question was what happens in the event of, I guess, what's considered an emergency when a bus gets stuck. And I think the example you gave was on the freeway, but we can use that for anything. In the event that that happens, the supervisors that are on duty that day have the ability to and the discretion to detour routes as they see fit to try to get the bus through that road blockage. I think the specific situation that you were talking about last time was the incident that happened. I believe it was on a weekend, a Saturday or a Sunday, where unfortunately the police officer was killed and the freeway was blocked for hours. It was blocked for a long time. I got caught up in that in my personal vehicle trying to go down to Everett for a doctor's appointment. So in that instance, I actually ended up getting off the freeway and coming home. We did try to detour the buses, but when that happens, of course, all of the side streets get very, packed with vehicles too. So, but I hope that answers your question. The supervisors that are on duty do have the ability and the discretion to detour buses as they see fit to try to get, through any traffic that may be happening at the time.
Okay.
You're muted. Doris, you're muted.
Thanks. The people that are stuck on the bus are just like hoping that we can get off or have a restroom break or won't be here for the rest of the night. And because it might be good if the bus driver could let us know what's happening.
Okay, so we'll make sure that they're providing updates to the folks. Sometimes they don't even know themselves. They just know that there's a traffic blockage, but we'll get the message out to have drivers communicate to passengers. So hopefully you guys know what's going on too.
Yeah, it's not very helpful. When you're at Everett, even the security guards at the Everett station don't know what's going on, and I'm kind of like, don't you have a phone? Can't you call somebody? Because it's just like if I drive there and I park at Everett station and I was going to take the bus, should I even keep going or should I just get back in my car and go back to Seattle? And it could take a half an hour. I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, if there was an emergency, a real one, like an earthquake or something, what happens to people? And where are the routes to detour to? You could try to get off You could try to get off the freeway and go, but there's hardly any place except Route 9 to get past Snohomish.
So that's a bit of a tricky question because the roads to detour, the streets to detour would really depend. It's situational, right? If it happens, if other streets are blocked due to traffic, or if it is an earthquake that damages the roads, and we have to pivot and we have to do what we can to get everyone home safely or to their destination safely. In terms of using the facilities, I've not heard of a situation yet where the passengers were stuck on the bus so long that they need a facility break. But in the event that that happens, I recommend that you communicate that to the operator, the bus driver, and we'll make every attempt to try to accommodate that request.
I think that's another thing that the driver needs to tell people if you're on the bus for over an hour. What should people say? Most people are just going to sit there like, I don't know what to do. They're not really going to be brave enough to ask the driver. They're just going to be stuck. Anyway, this is just a thing. Like, I think people need, just for customer service, people need to have communication about what's happening when the bus isn't working. Well, I mean, when the freeway isn't working, and it would help.
Yeah, 100% agree. I also, are you signed up for our text notifications? We do push notifications. If you're not signed up for that, please go onto our website and sign up for that. And we should be posting updates on our website as they happen. So if we're not doing that, please let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you too, Crystal. I think those are some really good talking points. And one of the questions I had that you had addressed also is, for instance, in an emergency, say for instance, if there were a situation where people needed to be evacuated because of some kind of disaster that's happening, how does that work? How does that connect up with Skagit Transit, if at all? Is Skagit Transit in the mix on trying to help with some of those logistics?
Are you talking about within the county? Like not on the bus, but you're talking about that's actually a great question. So I've met with the Department of Emergency Services, the DEM executive director, a number of times. So I have offered, all of our employees are what we call emergency responders, not the same as, for example, a firefighter or a police officer, but in the event of an emergency within the county, every employee can be called upon to provide services to community members. I'm in the process of trying to get an interlocal agreement together with the county as we speak. In fact, I just met with the executive director again about 3 weeks ago to try to get that in place. So it'll probably take us a while to get the verbiage in place for an interlocal agreement, but absolutely, I'm committed to, if there's ever an event in this community where we have to evacuate mass amounts of people, we will definitely be there for the community.
That's great. That is something that I thought, like, when it gets more gelled and into place, it would be good to have whether it's you, Crystal, or whoever, come in and speak to our group on what the protocols will turn out to be, as this further develops. I think that would be a really good thing. Raise some good talking points.
Thank you.
And thank you too. Any questions for Crystal or on anything that she's discussed?
I was just thinking about just the more common or smaller events that might happen. I wonder if all of the drivers have taken the CPR course.
Most, if not all, of our drivers are CPR first aid certified. There have been a couple that have expired for whatever reason, COVID, and still haven't been recertified, but that's something that we require all operators to do when they onboard. And we make every effort to make sure that they get recertified before their certification expires. So we probably have a couple right now that haven't been through the class yet, but I would say the majority of our drivers, staff in general, are first aid certified.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Crystal?
Yeah, Crystal, this is Irene. What does Skagit Transit's micro transit look like today?
We don't have microtransit yet. So like I stated, we put in for the consultant is looking at microtransit for us. and made a recommendation, a preliminary recommendation that we do microtransit in Fidalgo Island, Anacortes. They've also made a preliminary recommendation. We haven't put in a grant for this one yet, but they think that it would also be appropriate or efficient, I guess, if you will, to have microtransit in Cedro Woolley. So we're going to try Fidalgo Island / Anacortes first to see if it ends up being more efficient and effective and provides better service for us. And if it does, we're definitely going to build that model out and scale it to other areas within the county.
So by microtransit, does that mean that it's just a smaller vehicle, or does it mean smaller routes? Or
I apologize, I should explain. So every transit agency does microtransit a little bit different, but the way I like to explain microtransit is it's kind of like Uber in a bus or Lyft in a bus. My goal is to have all vehicles, if we do implement microtransit, be ADA accessible, or at least have ADA accessible vehicles so that nobody is excluded. Most transit agencies do zone-based microtransit, so you have a zone, and so in other words, no transit agency will allow you, and I'll just use Skagit as an example, to go from Anacortes all the way down to, say, Mount Vernon or Burlington. It's usually focused. The zone is in Anacortes or inside Cedro Woolley. A lot of transit agencies have it simply as feeder service, like it will just take you to their fixed route service or just to their light rail. So yeah.
Yeah, so as I understand it, to add to this, is microtransit is one of the things it can do is it's meant to fill in the holes of service, like HOLES, in the little holes of service that either geographically don't have service, or because of maybe service hours don't get some service. And so I think this is what this does. It just sort of fills in the gaps of service. Am I correct, Crystal?
I mean, yes, that's a great analogy. So for example, if we do get the grant to do microtransit on Fidalgo Island, we will more than likely end up eliminating the 409, because that's one of our lowest ridership routes, and we feel like we can provide much more effective and efficient service with better hours to include Sundays with a microtransit service.
and when you do this, how will you promote it? And how will people even recognize that it's available?
So sitting in the room with the rest of the folks at Skagit Station is our excellent marketing person. So we'll rely pretty heavily on her and Rogelio. Website, I'm sure Cheryl will have some other great ideas to promote our service. Social media platforms, word of mouth, on our buses, on our website.
Okay, thank you.
Through other agencies, like other NPO, nonprofit organizations, or other agencies or organizations within the county too. We can publish, like Anacortes. Some of this, Anacortes has a newspaper that we can publish in, Chamber of Commerce. We have a lot of different resources, but again, Cheryl's great at doing that stuff, and I'll rely heavily on her expertise to get the word out if we're able to secure that grant and get that service launched.
Would these be stored then in Anacortes, or maybe there'd be only one vehicle, but it would be kept in Anacortes available for people?
So the number of vehicles depends on the amount of grant money that we get. We applied for enough funds for 3 grants, and I don't remember the hours of service that we applied for right now, or that we put in the grant that we were going to provide, but we did ask for a 7-day service. So the level of service that we're able to provide will be highly dependent on what, if any, grant awards that we get for that. And no, the bus will not be stored in Anacortes. It will be stored here at our more than likely here at our bus yard in Burlington. Just like all of our other buses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions for Crystal or Cheryl? If not, I have a question, and this may have already been covered, but it's the first bullet point under the staff reporting. What Cheryl has in here is para ridership. Consultants are completing update. Is this, has all the information in this been covered?
I'll have to defer to Cheryl on that.
I have the ridership for the paratransit service, and it was 5,133 riders. And that's what that's referring to.
Oh, okay. So like a
Last month.
ridership report. Okay. Ah, okay. I was wondering how that fit in there. And what is that number again, please?
5,133.
Is this for the month of November?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do you know if there's been like year-to-date increase? I'm assuming it seems like there always has been an increase.
What were those numbers for what month? Cheryl, was that November?
Yeah, she said November.
Do you have October's by chance?
I didn't bring October, I'm sorry.
I can look and see if I can find it real quick because I have access to that too.
Okay.
Well, that's okay. I was just curious about this. I was wondering how this bullet point fed in, and it's good to have this number, and I would imagine that we have an increase that just keeps going up. Usually when you get the ridership report, we get the year to date, and then we get the the month, just so we could kind of see an overall increase, how it's gone either from last year or from month to month. We've seen those figures. It's just nice to know, but if you don't have them, that's okay. No problem. We'll get them.
Miss Judy, I'll make sure that I report on that in the my CEU update at the board meeting because I'm looking at my spreadsheet right now and it's missing September and October's and November's numbers actually. It's not updated. So we'll make sure we get that information for you.
No problem. No, like I said, it's nice to have it, just sort of have have that. I appreciate it a lot. Okay. Any other questions for Crystal? Did I hear somebody start to say something?
This is Manette. I was going to say that sounds wonderful that people are taking such advantage of it.
Okay. Yeah. One of the things I wanted to mention here is, of course, the new slate of officers. We all know who they are. It's like, since I'm chair, Irene is the vice chair, and we have Irene is the vice chair, and BJ, who is our special projects assistant. And so I've been kind of busy. When I figured I was going to be landing here, I decided I met with both Irene and BJ, and it was a wonderful meeting. I'm really glad to serve with these ladies. I feel like we've got a powerhouse of experience, just like it seems like we've always had such, but it's wonderful seeing what these ladies can bring to the table. I also met with Ms. Crystal, and I appreciated that so much, taking some time out of her busy schedule. And I relayed some of the information from our meeting with Irene and BJ to Crystal. And what I'd like to try to do is, and I also met with Cheryl, kind of, talking about some of the same information. And what I'd like to do in January with you ladies, Cheryl and Crystal, is to try to meet with you both with BJ and Irene. Now, I don't want to meeting us in I don't want to like meeting us to death and talk us to death, but just to have a meeting so that you can catch the vision that these ladies have for CAC and what they'd like to see, how we can go on to the next level as we progress in 2025. So I'm just really excited about these officers, and I just appreciate the committee as a whole. I wanted to say that.
Miss Judy, Cheryl and I are willing to meet with you whenever you want.
You betcha. Well, you guys, we're going to be more flexible than your schedules are probably, so you can let us know. We this is great. I'm just excited to work with everyone here, as I'm sure the other officers are too. Okay, snow routes. Who is talking about these and closures?
So we had our first little bit of cold weather. You might have noticed the frost this morning. So that means we refresh on our snow routes and we'll be ready. I'm not saying it's coming, but if it does.
I vote for no snow this year.
Amen.
We
Now
got
we got to pass it to the
here.
board.
Man,
Yeah. Okay, and then do you want to segue into the events, Cheryl?
Sure. So in November, we did an event that was all about Thanksgiving. It was kind of a festive thing. They had fiddlers that played happy, festive music. We were at that event. And then we were at the Artisans Market in Burlington. Was nippy but nice. And then the Good Cheer event in Mount Vernon, that was at the senior center, associated with the senior center in Mount Vernon. So,
Okay.
and just so you know, we will not be operating on Christmas Day or New Year's. So, just to remind everybody.
Okay. All right. But the day after Christmas, you would be then. It'd be back to business as usual, right?
You betcha. We'll be there.
Oh, yeah. I remember before retiring, we always had to, okay, who's going to work after Christmas Day this year? And we always rotated, because people
Mhm.
wanted longer vacations, but I get it. All right. Um, how about on anybody taken a connector lately and any experiences? We've got Doris and Valerie who always report, and Irene can report like how things are going out in the connectors.
This is Valerie. I'm happy to,
Yes, ma'am.
let's see. The only challenge that I have with let's see, I ride the 90 down to Everett and the 80 up to Bellingham, and I'll be riding the 80 to Bellingham again on Friday. Um, Smooth sailing, except for the fact that when I'm on a WTA bus on the 80X, it doesn't recognize my card. And um, I've communicated to Cheryl about this, so hopefully it's been resolved. I always carry some $1 bills just in case. Um, Driver is always polite and tries to say, "Oh, you can just go ahead and ride," but I'd rather. I don't want to take advantage of that card that isn't working. Other than that, I'm really grateful for that service. And I'll just quickly say that I'm grateful for the service. I did notice that the community information that is on the screens in the buses is quite out of date. On the last ADX trip, I was reminded frequently of the county fair, which happened back in August, and several other events that are long since passed. So I don't know whose job that is, but that's kind of they're falling behind. That's something behind. So, and I'm thinking that if they're out of date, people will just stop paying attention. So that if they're timely, then they will attract they will attract people's attention. Other than that, I'm grateful for the service.
So that brings up an interesting question. Well, one thing, Valerie, I know you had an issue with your pass before and they resolved it, but then it started happening again then, correct?
This has been going on and off for years.
Oh, okay, so it never got resolved
Well,
then.
it did get resolved, but then the passes change and
Ah,
the system change. So um, it's it's a kink in this in an otherwise smoothly working system, as far as I'm concerned.
mm-hmm. Now, as far as so Crystal, can you tell us, do you know who is in charge of actually updating the bus screens with information?
We have an internal staff member that does that, and I didn't hear the actual question aside from that.
This is
Uh,
Manette. She said that the bus screen said the county fair was still on.
Okay, so the advertisements, the notices posted on the ADX are way out of date.
On the screen?
Correct.
Okay.
So that when I rode the bus 2 weeks ago, they were advertising the county fair and other things that have happened months ago.
Okay. His name is Ryan. I'll let him know that they need to look at, I'll just tell him we need to look at all of them to make sure they're updated.
Thank you,
oh,
Crystal.
yeah, that's good. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Um,
Mhm.
oh, does anybody have any other questions for Valerie or anybody else regarding connectors?
Well, um, the connector to, I would still love to see some expedited service so it would be timely to get to Linwood in the morning to take the light rail to Northgate or to Seattle to work. And I was wondering, now that the initiative thread is over, I don't know if that was stalling, trying to make any changes in the service, but it would just be great. My idea, I know I've expressed this every time, is to get one of the early buses in the morning to go down to the South Everett Park and Ride first, and then come back to the station and stop, and then start back north and let people off where they're going and go back north. Would be one way to do it without really changing the service, but just kind of rearranging it a little bit, because it's not timely to take the bus to take it's I mean, I like taking the 90X to Everett, and then you have to wait and take the 512 that stops at two different park and rides and then goes to Linwood, and then you can go and get on the light rail and go to Northgate. And I work 10 minutes by bus from Northgate, but it's not timely to get there. So I just wish there was a way in the morning to get down to Linwood, so anybody could get on the bus, and that includes anybody that's going to the airport.
So the
So anyway,
recommendation is, I'm sorry, I'm going to write this down. The recommendation is to go to the South Everett Park and Ride first and then drop off at the station going back north.
And then go back up Broadway and drop anybody off. Anybody that was going like to the what do you call that? Like the entertainment center or the college, they would get dropped off on the way back up after the bus had gone to the station, picked up anybody that wants to go to Mount Vernon, and then just go north, drop the people off and go. That'd be one way to do it, because I know that Skagit Transit is not going to run a bus to Linwood yet, probably. But the best expedition would be to go to the South Mount Vernon Park and Ride. That way, anybody who gets there can take the next bus that goes to Linwood without having to spend an extra half hour going down Broadway and going to the station and waiting for the next 512. It's just a little bit faster, and I think we could probably do that without extra cost or much.
So you're saying skip Broadway going inbound.
Yeah, going into
south.
yep.
Okay.
I'm saying skip go there. If there was one that was kind of like an expedited to Linwood, one way to do it would be to take that bus all the way down to which is only like how many, 7 miles further down to
So
the
like an
South
express
Everett
bus
Park and
kind
Ride.
of.
It's quick, and then drop off anybody going to Linwood, and then come back to the station, pick up anybody, drop off the people that otherwise would have come down. But it's just, when you're sitting there and you're wanting to go to work, you have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get to a 7:30 job. I mean, nobody can do that. Even me resists doing that. Should get the 540 bus.
I have made a note and I will look at the feasibility of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's just one. So, I mean, there's a million people that, not a million people, I'm sorry. I mean, there's several people that were consultants for 2 years on this, and there's never been a solution, and there's never been anything tried. And Linwood has been open since months ago. So I'm just saying, could we get up with the program? Thank you.
And this also appeared in, I believe, in some of the shared, when the consultants met with us last February, I believe it was. I think that was Brad's last meeting with us. And I had compiled all of these requests and suggestions, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that was among them. I mean, and this has just been something ongoing. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being in this meeting, Crystal, and being in the position, just helping us with the CAC now. I mean, this is great having you on board, actually listening to some of these things.
You're very kind. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
I have a question.
Yeah, Irene?
And a comment. Yeah, it's Irene. So I find that the 512 runs, or at least has run very frequently, because I use the 90X and the 512 probably once a month at least. And I find that the 512 comes very, very frequently. But what my concerns are, do you know, Crystal, if Community Transit has made any changes or plans to make any changes to the 512 because that's that major link for us to the Link Light Rail.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that they're making some changes to that one, but why don't I check into that and have an answer for you by the next meeting?
But could I mention that I think the 512 is a Sound Transit bus. It's not Community Transit.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It is Sound Transit.
Okay.
But I'm concerned that they're going to make some changes because now that they have Link Light Rail, that they're going to reduce that 512. And I think that would be the frequency of the 512. And I think that would be a real detriment for just in general, but especially for Skagit Transit because of the link. And then the other thing, the Link Light Rail Station, and I think this is kind of important because if people are driving from Skagit County to the Link Light Rail Station hoping to get into downtown, it's not that easy because the parking, there's very limited parking there. So that means that you're going to have to, in order to use that Link Light Rail, especially in the morning hours, you're going to have to get bused to the Link Light Rail Station if you're going to rely on that to get the Link Light Rail to get you anywhere. So just a comment. I wonder how many. Yeah, I had a friend that had planned on. She'd left Whidbey Island, and she drove to the Link Light Rail Station, and she was going to go to a doctor's appointment downtown Seattle, and there was no place to park. She lost her. Yeah, I mean there was considerable repercussions for her with that, but yeah, I think that's such a incredible asset, just in general, transportation asset, to have that Link Light Rail and then to not be able to really use it. But people need to, and I think that's one of the things that Skagit needs to promote, that if you're a county resident and you want to use that asset, then you may need to access it via our buses. So instead of driving down there.
I think again, a lot of this comes down to marketing.
Yes, thank you, Judy. That's exactly what I was about to say. For years, I and some other people have been begging Skagit Transit to promote our own services on the outsides of the bus. I won't reiterate all of the arguments against that have been put forth by all kinds of people, but promoting what Skagit Transit offers on the back of the bus, where all these car, where all these other drivers are going to see it, is nearly free publicity. And
Mhm.
Very true.
promoting
Correct.
all of the express routes would just shock some people. I know it seems obvious.
It would.
People should go to the website and see what's available, but we're such a car culture that people often have to be really startled out of their routine to say, well, where does that bus go? Oh my gosh, I can get from Mount Vernon
And
to
you
Cedar Woolley
shouldn't
for
have,
$1 to concrete for this is amazing.
Right.
So
I'm sorry to interrupt, but one of the biggest blockages was we were told is that, oh, it costs so much to buy one of these wraparounds for the buses. Well, you don't need a wraparound.
thank
You know,
you.
get a bumper sticker or whatever you want to call it. I mean,
You
just
get
you can do
a
something.
magnet sign and stick it
Yeah,
on the side of the bus.
you
And
don't
other
have to spend
transit systems
thousands to do that.
and other
Sandwich.
sorry. Other transit systems do this consistently and have for years. So thank you for bringing up the wraparound. No, we don't need a wraparound. A simple
No.
sign on the back would go a long way.
So Miss Valerie, that's certainly something that I can speak to the board about. It is my understanding, and Cheryl can either confirm or deny, validate what I'm saying, but it's my understanding that our board of directors has not wanted to have any advertisements on the bus at all. Is that true, Cheryl?
I think that's true. This is Valerie. And Cheryl's about to speak for herself, which is what she should do. And we're not talking about opening advertising to other businesses. We're just talking about
That's a significant
promoting Skagit Transit
distinction
itself.
right there. I won't be using that service personally, but it is a different matter if you're
Totally.
advertising pizza on the side of the bus or if you're advertising the route
Right.
that the bus takes.
Well put,
Seems to
Robin.
me that I asked about this at a board meeting one time. I was assumed because I had been told, no, you couldn't do this. And Lisa
That's security. This
Janicki
is an
said, yeah. Anyway, so I think some things that we were told in the past couldn't be done now probably are going to be possible. And this discussion has been like 2.5 years.
Oh,
No,
honey, it's
over a
been 5 or
decade,
6.
Judy. Over a
Judy, what
decade.
did Janicki say? What did Commissioner Janicki say?
You know what? I will have to go back and look at that board meeting, but it was like, this had to have been back in 21 or 22. I think when I first started, when I first started being able to read reports, because I was assuming that there was some marketing. I'll have to go back and look, but it's something I assumed that we could not do with Skagit Transit because I was told we couldn't. She said, no, you can do that. You can do that. And I'm like, oh, good, thanks. I was going to take it and run with it. So thanks.
I'm just going to go to Copy Shop in Mount Vernon on Monday and order a magnet sign that says, you can take the 90X to Everett. Did you know that? And I'm going to go down to the bus stop at 6 o'clock in the morning. And as soon as the 90X gets on there, I'm going to stick it on the side. And you won't know, but you think Santa Claus did that. No, but there's just one other thing. I don't mean to derail the conversation. There's one more thing I wanted to say about the parking in response to what our colleague said. Everett parking lot is not so bad because they have a big parking lot on the other side of the railroad tracks, not just the parking lot that's next to the bus station. And I have never seen it full. So if people want to go to Seattle, you can drive to Everett, drive to the Everett station, park there, and get on the 512 and go to Linwood. And I wish that sometimes if that Sound Transit would get a shuttle direct from Everett to Linwood. I think that would be really time effective for people that want to get there. And they haven't done that. It's just that the 512, I think the 512 just goes to Linwood now. Does it keep going? We could find that out. But anyway, the 512 used to be going from Everett to Northgate. And now that light rail is at Northgate. I don't know where there's a 512 because I always get off at Linwood now. But anyway, we can look that stuff up. But there's this sort of crazy making snail paced gap in the service that really, if we could just collectively brainstorm and a way to get over that gap so that it wasn't, it would cut a half an hour off people's commute. And that's important in the morning if you have to be at work. Like my school, I'm supposed to report to school at 7:25 near Northgate. And anyway,
Yeah.
just saying.
All good stuff. And Crystal, I am so glad you're here
Thank you, Ms.
to
Judy. I'm glad
hear
to be here
about
too.
all of this stuff. Yeah, it's just so valuable. But we actually, I just want to quickly find out before we adjourn if anyone has any other comments or things that need to be brought to our attention.
Well, this is Manette. I agree with her, but I'd love to have something that would go more frequently and shuttle people between Mount Vernon and Everett. I'd love that. But, you know, my dream is anywhere you want to go, any time of the day or night, all over the whole damn state. So I don't know if I'll live long enough to see that, but that's what my dream is.
And that sounds like it's going to be a work in progress, but that would be wonderful. I agree. I do agree. Does anybody else have anything else to say or any questions?
This is Valerie. I just wanted to toss out a little historical perspective. Over 10 years ago, I approached, when I was a co-chair of the CAC, I went to a board meeting, brought up the idea of advertising Skagit Transit on the outside of Skagit Transit buses. The first objection was nobody's going to drill holes in the sides of our buses to put up signs. So I won't bore you with the array of reasons that have been put forth, but that was the first one.
Okay.
So get those,
We
keep
don't
those
need
drills
that,
away.
we don't
Doris,
have to drill. Valerie, have you seen, or actually everybody, have you guys seen the magnets that we bought and put on the back of the buses that say this bus is funded by the Climate Commitment Act?
Yes.
So those are magnets. Well, we can certainly.
That's what we need.
Perfect.
Oh, it's
Perfect.
ridiculous.
The role model, the path is there. Thank you, Cheryl.
Yeah, so it's an option. I just want to make sure that the board is okay with it, and I understand what you guys are saying in terms of opening it to outside advertising. Although at my previous two agencies, we use that as a source of revenue. Although you have to be careful because there's certain things you probably don't want advertised on the buses, but you can't exclude some people. So I like the idea of just keeping it the advertising strictly to Skagit Transit services. So I will start. I'll meet with some of the board members tomorrow, and I'll start having those conversations to see if they're open to, at a minimum, allowing us to advertise Skagit Transit services on the back.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Crystal.
All right.
Yes, and this is Manette. I think we should put sandwich boards at different places advertising routes too. Bus shelters or wherever we can get away with it.
Wow. You know, it's just something we just have to keep after, and be patient and keep after until we can see something. It's like raising kids. You have to tell them every day of their lives, put your socks away, put your socks away, put your socks away. And then maybe when they're adults, they'll do it, but at least it works. And so that's kind of where I'm at. We just need to keep patiently doing this till we get it done. So on that note, do we have, does anyone want to put forth an adjournment? Motion to adjourn?
This is Valerie. I put forward the motion that we wrap up this very lively and useful meeting.
But we don't need a wrap. We just need a magnet.
Very good, Doris.
Okay. And then that was Dick that seconded it?
Yes.
Seconded it. Okay. All right. It's been moved and second that this very wonderful, lively December. Merry Christmas, everybody. Meeting.
Happy holidays,
adjourned.
people.
Merry Christmas.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right. So the meeting is adjourned. We will see you next year at the January 14th meeting. That'll be our meeting. And if you can make the board meeting next Wednesday, 11 a.m., which is going to be, oh, shoot, dates. I can't think. Okay, today, 18th.
December 8th.
18th. Yeah, 11 a.m. Make the board meeting. Okay,
Happy
thank
holidays,
you.
everyone.
Happy
Thank you,
holidays. Be
guys.
well. Stay well.
Bye.
Okay.
Take care.
Happy
Bye
holidays.
bye.